Hey Guru, everyone.
Hey Guru. Welcome everybody to the Awake, the Life of Yogananda Minute by Minute podcast. Today we're talking about minute 22, and we are still in that experience of Yogananda having to let go of his earthly mother. As always, we're here with Priyank and Chris. How are you guys doing today?
Fine, it's doing well. It's hot in Brazil, as I'm sure you're all keen to hear.
Yes, Brazil weather report. Yes,
I think this is the one occasion where all three of us might have the exact same weather.
Is it right?
It's like 30 degrees right now here.
In London, at 30 degrees.
London, yeah.
Whoa.
Enjoy it for the one day that lasts.
California, what's the temperature in LA, Mike?
I'm sure it's 30 degrees somewhere. Here by the coast, it's more like 25.
Okay.
Yeah, so you actually got it warmer there. You must be dying in London at 30. Yeah.
Sweating.
Hey, you got long sleeves on as well.
Yeah, I had some work stuff to do.
All right. Nice. So in the movie, we're at this point where Yogananda's mom had passed away, and now he's processing it mentally. He has this whole thing going on with his mom, having to let go of his mom, but at the same time feeling Divine Mother, being the mother behind all mothers, taking care of him, having always taken care of him, and beginning to realize that. Then there's also that tiger story that is being mentioned, and Guruji is processing all of this mentally, and the pictures they're very slow, and the voices are soft. So it's a bit of a ethereal kind of scene that we're in. So should we start with our first section would be about the building at 50 Amherst Street, because this is the building where Guruji's mother was about to prepare Ananta's wedding, the wedding of the oldest son, which is in India and a really big event. Can you talk about this a little bit, Priyank? What kind of occasion this is in an Indian family?
Yes, I can. So, as with most mothers, Mukunda's mum was very pleased to have the first wedding in the family on the eldest son. So that's a very, very big occasion. Usually, the mother's side or the family usually hosts the biggest occasion for the daughter. So the first daughter actually has the biggest wedding, but and the family hosts all daughters' weddings. So families have much more to do with daughters. But because this was the first one, first child from them to get married, so Ananta being the eldest son, they would have planned lots of elaborate things for him. So it would have all followed the same sort of custom, 3 or 4 day procedure, but each event would have been very grand, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. And it's I'm not sure if they bought it for this occasion, but they had recently acquired this new house in 50 Amherst Street in Kolkata, which is what they said is more spacious than the previous one. In the autobiography, they say it was easy to fit in all those relatives that came to visit, to have them all stay with them because they had more space now. What else do we know about this building, Chris?
Yeah, they purchased the building, which is quite an extravagant show of wealth, actually, for Yogananda's parents, and they had it really for the wedding. So, this much we know that there was tragedy where Yogananda's mother passed away in the building. Yogananda later would go to visit the building, and there's some accounts of how he would be walking through the corridors and reliving his mother's memory. So we know that the building was sold on and used as a school in later years and so on. But it's still, you can see pictures of it, and people go there to pay homage and pilgrimage to the site today. So yeah, it's quite a grand building actually when you see it. That certainly has a lot of memories for Yogananda. At that time, it was quite significant for him.
I might be throwing a bit of a curveball now, but a question just arose in me, because I have been to Kolkata once, and I went to Guruji's home, and I think it was Guapar Road where I was. Guapar Road? Or
Garpur, number 4 Garpur Road, I think, isn't it?
Guapar Road, yeah, that's a different building, right? Just to be sure, that is not this one. So there's like two different buildings where Guruji's family had lived. So that is correct. Probably.
maybe the listeners.
Tell us, yeah.
If any of the listeners knows about this, please let me know. Because in that case, next time I go to Kolkata, I need to visit both of them, obviously. Let's talk about Guruji's. Like we talked about in the last minute about how his mother called him to come back, and they didn't make it in time, but now inside Guruji's mind it changed a bit. Like he's realizing the loss of his mother. He said it took him years to actually let go of her, really, because he really had a strong bond with her. But the role of Divine Mother suddenly becomes very prominent in his mind. Do you want to talk about this a little bit, Priyank?
Yes. So the script is quite profound. So I'm going to paraphrase the script. So the script says, this is Mother, Cosmic Mother, as if speaking, and the script goes, paraphrased, I have looked after you through many lifetimes, many mothers. Look into my eyes and see your mother. And then we see an image of his birth mother, blurry, like over the sunset. So the script is very deep and profound, and also the scenes likewise. So I wanted to let's dig into that. So I've looked after you through many lifetimes. How does that make you feel, Chris?
It's profound, isn't it? And I think, well, I can speak personally. You know, my mother has been there for me and had a very large influence in my life growing up, which I'm entirely blessed and thankful for. So when I hear this, you know, I do get triggered with, you know, thoughts of gratitude and feelings of gratitude for my own mother. But interesting that you know, you in a previous incarnation could have been a mother yourself, and I think it kind of speaks to our feminine side, you know, of caring and loving nature. And you know, certainly when that sentence was read, when I read that sentence, I thought to myself how complex this world is that we're a part of, and how fantastic this life is, really. So yeah, it fills me with, you know, love and affection, but also makes me, you know, wonder, you know, exactly what stories, you know, we could tell from previous incarnations, you know, from various experiences that we've had with Divine Mother, being part of the channel for Divine Mother, but also receiving the love.
Nice. I can share a little bit in that direction. I mean, I keep mentioning that because I lost my mother at some point, and seeing it the way Guruji does instantly here, this shows his level of spiritual maturity. Like for me, my journey was a bit different because I took my mother completely for granted while she was there, and then she didn't really go at an old age or something. So when she was gone, it was like, oh my God, this is different. This basically took like one of those veils of delusion that you have in front of you that just took one of them away, basically. Reading how Guruji lost his mother is very healing. It's very like, because it's this really adult way of seeing what your mother really is. It is an incarnation of Divine Mother in your life that gives you that love that you need to establish yourself in this life. Especially when you're a young kid, you need protection, you need love, and this is basically what you get there. And then you look back at it, and you look at it with a lot of gratitude, with a lot of, you are just thankful. Thank you for having played that role for me. And then it suddenly turns from something painful into something beautiful. And I think at some point it was like that for Guruji as well, and that's why he describes this in such detail.
It's very true what you say, Mike, and it really struck home for me when I heard the "Receive Me on Thy Lap, O Mother," and it's both like a beautiful but sorrowful and it's a very heartfelt song in a way that you can't help but be transfixed with when you hear it. Really, cast me not on delusion's door, and receive me on the lap of mother. They're just beautiful, beautiful words, and really, this is another example. We've repeated a few times now, or I have, of the events in the life that really spur the desire to know God and to experience the love through Divine Mother in this physical form, in the form of your own mother, is a drop in the ocean in the sense of what the love of God is, and the love that God that you can have for God, and it spurs you to seek that love out in a way, and you can see that in Guruji's songwriting and his words. So yeah.
Yeah, like one more thing I wanted to add is when you just said that, Chris, is that I think Guruji mentioned somewhere that the love of a mother to a child is one of the examples of unconditional love in our lives, which is also beautiful.
Yeah.
So then in India, when you think of Divine Mother, there isn't just one, right? There is like multiple aspects of the Divine Mother. Guruji obviously chose the Mother Kali. I'm not sure, that's another curveball for Priyank, how many of those how many of those aspects you know and what they mean, and do you know why Kali is the one that he keeps referring to?
Yeah, so Kali, and I think Kala also means time. So she's that aspect of timelessness, or master of, or responsible for time, and therefore responsible for the creation and annihilation of our universe. There's that aspect to Mother Kali, and that's why she's somehow some of her images are very gruesome. They're in that form which is quite scary, because time takes things away, as we know in this case for Yogananda's mother. But the other aspects are also that you mentioned how many types of, or how many forms of Divine Mother are there in India, and there's literally countless. Every single village will have a different matron, saint, a Divine Mother form, and it's very common for everyone, even though there might be a Shiva temple, etc. But the Divine Mother temple will be the one that is the most important one for all the Hindus in the village. So in my village, it was Dosla Mata, and so she looks a bit like Kali, I suppose. She has her tongue out, and she also looks a bit like Lakshmi. So yeah, each of the Hindu gods actually have a female counterpart. Krishna has Radha, Shiva has Parvati, etc.
Interesting.
There's a really cool story here. If I can read it out, it's a paragraph long, so it shouldn't be too long. And I found it actually in a writing. Let me just quote this. It's Paramahansa Yogananda and Divine Mother Kali on sangitayoga.com, and it's a blog written by Kamala Kanta, So go and check that out. It's a great read, and he talks about Ma Kali here, uh, referencing Mukunda. As time went on, the young Mukunda's love for Ma Kali was so intense that his family began to support his devotion. When he was 1 year old, he was taken to Lahiri Mahashaya to get a blessing, and he was told by Lahiri Mahashaya that to encourage his spiritual inclinations, and she made a Kali murti for him. So they put this murti on a low stool and performed puja together, and it was a 1.5 foot high, perfect image of Ma Kali. So even at a very young age, Mukunda performed Kali puja every day before moving to Kolkata. So I thought that was a nice story. So it was in his life really from the very beginning.
And that's also part of of the Bengali culture a bit, right? I think maybe not Kali Puja, but Durga Puja is like one of the biggest festivals they have in Bengal, right? And it's also she's also an aspect of Divine Mother, right?
Yeah. I've also, whilst we're here, let me share an image of Yogananda's mother, so everyone can see. So we can see here, you can see she looks very much like Yogananda and Mukunda, and we also see that in this minute the words are poignant in terms of the reference to the eyes. So it kind of says, the script says, "Look into my eyes and see your mother." And this is look into the divine mother's eyes, and there's a lot of divinity in those eyes, isn't there? And this picture is obviously also in the autobiography of a yogi as well, and you can you see Yogananda straight through those eyes as well, don't you?
I always
very beautiful dark eyes.
The eyes are the windows for the soul, right? And there's depth in those eyes for sure.
Yeah.
And it's in color. Is it in color in the autobiography as well?
No. I think this has been colored
nice.
artistically. Yeah, very beautiful.
Yeah,
amazing. Was there one more paragraph, Chris, that we wanted to read in this section, or did we want to move on?
There's actually so much in here. I really would encourage the listeners, go check out that blog on Mother Kali on sankitayoga.com. It's pretty cool. But no, for all intents and purposes, that's a good snapshot. We can move on.
Nice. So the next thing that is mentioned in the movie is the story with the tiger. I can just paraphrase it, but it's basically Guruji, when he dreamt at night, he would have nightmares, and he would every now and then dream of a tiger breaking his leg, and his mom would then come at night and tell him it's just a dream, and that kind of made him, of course, because he's an avatar, like not every kid would do that, but he would say, from then on, I started differentiating between what is real and unreal, even in my dreams, which is not easy to do, right? Like you are not even conscious in your dream. But it shows like whenever something happened to him that was not a how do you say that, like an adverse condition or something, he would like face it right on. Yeah. What do you think about that tiger story, Priyank?
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I think we've all had those kind of vivid dreams, and then we may as well go into dreams in a minute. But that tiger story is a really good one because tigers they're pretty scary, aren't they? Of all the big cats, tigers are the most mysterious and the scariest. So it's pretty natural for Mukunda to dream of that, and especially obviously being from India, it's not an uncommon sight to see a tiger, and there's still tigers in the wild in India. Yeah, and obviously they're protected after the British ransacked the tiger population through hunting.
Is that right?
Yeah. They used to be like tens of thousands, and now it's down to the thousands, and they're only in protected areas. So they've literally tracked all the tigers in the wild, and so yeah, it's a precarious situation.
I think there's meant to be more tigers in Texas, US, than there
Wow.
are
Gosh,
in captivity, like in people's gardens.
crazy.
It's insane. Than all India, something like that.
Do you guys have a vivid nightmare such as that you wouldn't mind us analyzing and dissecting?
I feel like tigers haven't played a prominent enough role in my life to be scared of them.
My scariest nightmare, it's a recurring nightmare for me, is there's always a lot of pressure for me to do well in school, and I've got this recurring dream of like having an exam, like finals, and not being prepared in any way, like it just being spraying up and then just walking into the exam and opening it, not knowing a single thing about what to do in any of the thing. And as a recurring nightmare, then I literally, when I wake up, I'm so relieved. And
I'm sorry, Priyank, but that means you're such a nerd, basically.
Or too much educational pressure. But yeah, no, it's similar feeling to the tiger for me. That's as palpitating.
Just hearing that, it's amazing. I like it. I mean, look at Guruji, what he did. He just went to Sri Yukteswar and said, Guruji, I haven't studied. Can you make me pass the exam somehow?
He happened to study the only part that came up in the exam, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how the story goes. Yeah.
You got to share your nightmare stories now. Come on, it's got to be equally as embarrassing.
Yeah, I would personally love to. I'm trying to think.
Chris is fearless. He's fearless. Look at him.
I'm just a spiritual warrior. What can I say? Yeah. No, I think there's recurring dreams that I've had. I empathize with your dream, Priyank. I think I've dreamt many times of missing school and waking up and realizing it was a weekend or something like that. But I suppose recurring dreams of maybe running away from something. You're being hunted down by some, unknown, figure, and you're kind of stuck in quicksand. Interestingly, actually, I just Googled, symbolism and what tigers mean in dreams. And if any listeners are kind of into this aspect of analyzing dreams, share your thoughts on this, because I have no idea if this is right or wrong, but it's sounds cool, so I'll share it. So the tiger, the symbolism stands for willpower, boldness, royalty, mightiness, courage, vitality, energy, generosity. And if the tiger is attacking, it means something different to if the tiger was maybe injured or so on. And it means really your enemies and obstacles and troubles are coming your way. And interesting that it broke Mukunda's leg in the dream. I'm not exactly sure what the interpretation would be there, but he's somebody who's taken on the spiritual fight, hasn't he, and planted the flag for other people to rally around, on planet Earth, for us all to come together. And that takes a lot of battling internally, spiritually, in every sense. So when I saw this, it clicked. It made sense that he would be attacked by a fearsome animal. So I thought I'd just share that as a segue to me getting out of talking about my nightmares.
Does anyone, unless Mike wants to go, does anyone have what are they called? Those dreams where you can, lucid dreams, that's it, where you realize that you're dreaming and you can start to then play with what happens in the dream? And then go on, Chris.
A lot of the time, I kind of thought that it's normal, and they talk about these things, and I'm not sure that they are, but I think that people on the spiritual path, you probably will find a little bit more happening in dreams. My estimates, anyway. And Yogananda talks a lot about dreams, doesn't he? And dreaming is like a theme with Yogananda, isn't it? The cosmic dreamer, and he talks a lot about reality being a dream of God, of cosmic intelligence. What is reality, so to speak, but a show of light and shadows in dream form. But he does talk about it, that if you are dreaming too much, you need to meditate more. So your mind, your subconscious is too active, and you have to really try to settle the mind before you go into sleep. So
you sidestepped a key point there. So in your last dream where you were lucid, what did you do?
Oh, okay. It's funny, actually. I'm sure listeners and you guys maybe if you've had similar experiences, it's interesting to play with the manifestation when you're in dream form. I've had lots of dreams where you're flying, and of course these can be interpreted in lots of ways, but even just silly things like maybe driving, and you might want to all of a sudden be in a different vehicle, or maybe fly a plane or something like this. But I've had lots of these things, but yeah, I don't think it helps my meditation state.
Mike, were you ever lucid other than when you're taking drugs?
Yeah, when I take drugs all the time.
In LA,
for all the listeners, I don't take any drugs.
This podcast does not condone the use of drugs or anything.
Yes.
Mind altering states for meditation.
If children are listening, don't take drugs. It's not worth it. So for what I don't really dream a lot. I tried to do a dream journal for a while because I felt like I always wake up and like I sleep. I don't sleep very long, so I go to sleep, I meditate, I go to sleep, and then I always wake up at like 6 or something, and then I can't remember any dream. And sometimes I do a little bit, and I started writing a dream journal for a while, but it didn't go very well. There wasn't very many days where I had much to say. Dreams become lucid for me sometimes when really bad things happen, because then I go like, this is so bad, this has to be a dream. Like sometimes I drive and I run over a person, or I fight with someone and I lose an arm, or something like that happens, and I'm like, come on, this is not real. And the funny thing is that I can convince myself that it's a dream, but this really negative feeling that you have, I lost my arm, this doesn't go away. If I could make it go away like this, I would prefer that. Oftentimes it leads to me waking up, because and then when you wake up, and then you have this feeling, oh, it was just a dream, and this negativity goes away. I was never able to do this inside my dream, because I feel like that's somehow what Guruji talks about, like differentiating between the real and the unreal in your dream. But like nightmares, they haven't happened in a while. I think they also have to do with, did you have a late night snack or something like that? Like that's oftentimes what it tells you.
Jeez, yeah.
Dreams. What about yourself, Parag? Go on, share with us.
Yeah, so I've had a few of such dreams. The one that's vivid in my mind where I was with my family. And it was a normal event, and they were going about their business, and I was like, okay guys, I'm dreaming right now, so I'm just gonna leave right now. So then I left that area, and everyone was like, what do you mean you're dreaming? I was like, I'm dreaming, I'm asleep. And I remember leaving, and I don't remember what happened after that, but I remember that distinctly, that conversation. And I thought it's really quite profound, that that experience, that to explain to even your dream family that you're dreaming. But let me show you. I think there's also something that's interesting for us as devotees, because I think you may be I think you talked about meaning of dreams, Chris, but I think there's also something to that, in the sense that your guru is probably able to pass in and out of your dreams more easily than in your waking consciousness. So, for example, I'll tell you a very nice story that Brahmachari Jason told us. I think, Mike, you perhaps were there, one of the young adults meetings in London Centre. He said this one devotee in South America, she just found the path, and then she found that there was a centre that was near her. So she was very excited, and she used to go regularly. So she was very new and very keen. And then she started saying, "Can I serve?" And they told her, "Yeah, please. We've got a commemoration evening, meditation happening in a couple of weeks. Why don't you prepare the flowers for that?" So she said, "Oh yeah, that's what a privilege, what an honor." And she really thought about this. She picked which flowers Guruji would like, and she thought about the arrangement, even though she's never done it before. She thought about fragrances and all these things about that. So then she did it, and she put it there, and she came early for the commemoration and put it out. And then what happened was the person who'd given her the task said, "Well, what are you doing? This is not right." And then she really scolded her. So she was really, really angry, and she was the person who was saying, "This is not right. Now we don't have enough time to correct it. You've done it all wrong." And obviously this new devotee was very, very, very taken back, and she was very upset, even to the point that she thought, "Okay, maybe this isn't the right path for me. I've done something with such devotion, and someone somewhere is saying something's very wrong." And then her sister came round the next day, and they were just talking, and her sister said to this lady, "Oh, I had the strangest dream." And she's like, "Oh, what dream did you have?" And she said, "Oh, I had this strange dream, this feminine looking man with really long hair. He was wearing orange, and he said he just came to me, and he said, 'Thank you very much. I really love the flowers.'" And she, obviously that devotee that did the arrangement was then obviously very taken aback, and she was reassured of her devotion. But for Guruji to manifest physically, obviously that would be quite a miraculous feat. But through subconscious, superconscious states, it's much easier. So I really like that story.
Yeah. I think there's definitely more to this than meets the immediate line of thought. Where in dream states, are you, how active are you, in what forms? I've heard lots of things of schools, SRF kind of schools going on where you're learning with Guruji, and so on and so forth. What do you do when you go into sleep state? Dreaming and that are two different things, but it's certainly interesting, isn't it? And meditating before sleep, I think, to Mike, to your point, is the way to go. And then your dreams are probably less significant because you're in a more peaceful vibratory place. I actually have some information on this to share from the Second Coming of Christ, if now is a good time to do that.
Yep.
And there's a part in the book that talks about all forms of matter are different, and rates of vibrating spirit of thought. So I can go into this a little bit. It's a very short paragraph. So thought of matter, energy, all matter, all things are nothing but the differently vibrating thoughts of spirit. Even as man in his dreams creates a world of lightning and clouds, people being born or dying, loving or fighting, and experiencing heat or cold. All births and deaths, sickness and disease, solids, liquids, or gases in a dream state are nothing but the differently vibrating thoughts of the dreamer. This universe is a motion picture of God's thoughts on the screen of human consciousness. And obviously, a couple of analogies there about the God's thoughts on the motion picture, which again is a common theme with Yogananda's talks and teachings. But the dream state, this is nothing but a dream state, which you've got to pinch yourself at times, but for how real it feels to us. So to Yogananda's point, pinch yourself in the dream state when you're sleeping, but also in reality when you're going about your physical kind of day-to-day activity, because it's also nothing but a dream.
it's a dream inside a dream, right? So
Oh,
it's like I want to segue. I'm gonna add another segue here because Guruji also talks often about the movie screen, and the idea that you have like this projector that projects a dream on a canvas and we're watching it. And he mentions this many times in the autobiography and in other ways, that this is basically what our life is. It's the cosmic motion picture that we're going through. And speaking of motion picture, there's a film that basically talks a lot about the dream state, and that is of course Inception by Christopher Nolan. And Priyanka, I believe you have a clip that you want to share.
yes, I do.
They say we only use a fraction of our brain's true potential. Now, that's when we're awake. When we're asleep, our mind can do almost anything.
Such as?
Well, imagine you're designing a building, right? You consciously create each aspect. But sometimes it feels like it's almost creating itself, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, like I'm discovering it.
Genuine inspiration, right? Now, in a dream, our mind continuously does this. We create and perceive our world simultaneously, and our mind does this so well that we don't even know what's happening. That allows us to get right in the middle of that process.
How?
By taking over the creating part. Now, this is where I need you. You create the world of the dream. We bring the subject into that dream, and they fill it with their subconscious.
How could I ever acquire enough detail to make them think that it's reality?
Well, dreams, they feel real while we're in them, right? It's only when we wake up that we realize something was actually strange. Let me ask you a question. You never really remember the beginning of a dream, do you? You always wind up right in the middle of what's going on.
I guess, yeah.
So how did we end up here?
Well, we just came from the,
Think about it, Ariadne. How did you get here? Where are you right now?
We're dreaming?
You're actually in the middle of the workshop right now, sleeping. This is your first lesson in shared dreaming. Stay calm.
Fantastic.
So how do you know how you're not dreaming, Mike?
I actually don't. Like from all from all I know, I am dreaming. I'm living the cosmic dream. But I just thinking about this, like the way the movie makes you think about the dreams is basically, for me, it's cosmic truth seeking. It's starting to think metaphysically, and that's why I like it. And thanks for sharing it.
Yeah, I think also, you know, in the last minute we talked about that that part from The Lion King about the father, and you know, there's even though it's a cartoon, and there's some parts of truth that when you hear truth, you know it, and as part of that dialogue about dreams that everyone can resonate with, isn't it? Like no one remembers the start of a dream, do they? How did you get here? You don't know. One of the fantastic meditations that we just had in convocation, one of the subsidiary meditations after the talk was about consciousness, and this is on a similar theme. So she was asking, okay, so you know, get yourself in a meditative state, and she said, okay, if I asked you to just think about consciousness, do you exist right now? Are you conscious? And then you obviously you can feel that you're conscious, so you nod and you agree to yourself, and then she asks, okay, so when do you think this consciousness began? You know, was there a beginning? And then you think, actually no, my consciousness has always been here, isn't it? Didn't start when I was born. The consciousness was there. Okay, so when do you think this consciousness will end? And then you'll think, yeah, of course, why would it end? It doesn't need to end at this point of death, does it? And then she says, okay, we'll focus on that. That is, you know, you're approaching truth there. You know, consciousness is eternal. It's, you know, it doesn't have a beginning, it doesn't have an end. And obviously that's such a powerful meditation, because then you come to your own, you know, state of awareness of your, you know, the essence of your existence as pure consciousness.
I like that a lot. I do. This is when I was a kid and I was told about reincarnation. I kind of noticed that I was actually quite happy with the thought that there's no reincarnation, because I subconsciously felt that maybe there's no reincarnation, but somehow my existence would still go on after this life. That was my default thought pattern. And then reincarnation kind of fit into this really nicely. And then I tried to imagine what it would be like if I would, after this life, I would completely cease to exist. And it was a very depressing thought. I was like, okay, no, this is not it. Like, there's no level on which I exist anymore afterwards. I was unable to accept that, basically. And I think this hits into the same category, that we are always conscious on some level, and that dream is just one layer of our consciousness, I guess.
We have things that occur in this life to shake us awake from that dream, just as we do in the dream state as well, right? So, oh, like you said, oh, something bad happens. Am I dreaming this? Could be real.
Yes, exactly. Should we move on to the next? I saw Chris shared a very beautiful picture of Mother Kali. Do you want to share that, or whoever has the sharing rights at the moment?
I think Frank might have the sharing rights, but I'm happy to jump in.
Let me do it. Let me do it. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, for any viewers that are tuning into the video, you can enjoy.
Share screen. There you go. This is Ma Kali in the Dakshin. Is this Dakshineshwara temple, Chris?
So this was on the website that I was looking at before. Sorry, Sanita Yoga, I believe. The backstory to this, yes, I think it is in the temple, but I couldn't tell you too much.
Yeah, it is. I just googled it.
Yeah, you can see her tongue out, and she's it's a very fierce form, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's frightening.
Mm-hmm. And you said that it's because she also represents time, and time takes things away.
Yeah, she's also seen as the destroyer of evil, darkness, all that kind of good stuff. So there's lots of symbology there in everything from what she's holding. For example, on some occasions she's seen standing on Shiva, and there's a lovely story about why Shiva would be seen with a goddess standing on him, and you can look that up.
Yeah, it's certainly very different from anything that you would find in the Western, places of worship. A lot more colorful and vibrant, and thought-provoking than a lot of things that you would have in the UK. So whenever I see that from my perspective, it's shocking, when you first see that. And it's funny to imagine, a young Mukunda really worshipping this image. It's profound, really. Very different.
There's a temple in Wales, on the mountains, on the hills. It's called Skanda Vale, and it's a very famous temple. It's run by Welsh or English devotees, and it's again to the Divine Mother, Skanda Mata, and. I remember when I first went there, and just to your point, Chris, you wouldn't normally see Westerners, seeing any divinity in such images. But then all these, in this temple, it's run purely by Welsh and English people or white people, and I remember being really shocked because I was like, well, how can they, I've been ingrained to this form of divinity, but these guys are just doing it. They just delved into the culture, and they're doing it with such devotion. They have arati at like half 4 a.m. and there's various rituals and things they do throughout the whole day. And it's a very beautiful place if anyone comes to Wales and wishes to spend a weekend away from the hustle and bustle.
I've very quickly found what you're talking about, and actually have the image of Callie there from that side. So if you want to be fair. But yeah, it looks awesome, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks similar, doesn't it?
Very similar.
Nice. So to wrap it up, we can still talk a little bit about the meaning behind Guruji's mother's passing, the purpose of death in our cycle of being born and dying. It's a very profound question, but if any thoughts you want to share on this, Chris?
So the idea of death for me was always backed up with the Christian teachings, which are very, very different from what we are taught in the yoga and with Yogananda. Very, very different. So one of purgatory and judgment and having your sins weighed weighed up and cast into hell for eternity versus going to heaven. Very, very different from the reality that of reincarnation, let's say. So the first chunk of my life, a very, very large chunk, was always battling with this idea of what actually happens to you when you die. And to your point, Michael, I thought to myself, there must simply be more to this than what is being told in these teachings, in the Christian side of things. So I never accepted it, and I always rebelled, against people that I was speaking to, and there was usually some kind of heated discussion when it came to the subject of death, whether you're talking to an atheist or talking to somebody of a Christian background. And I think actually, how much better would the world be if you knew you had to sleep in the bed that you made? So reincarnation is one of cyclical action, and in order to break it, you must walk the tightrope of meditation and right action. But if you were to keep coming back, say, to Earth, you would want this place to be heaven, wouldn't you? You wouldn't wait until you died to get to heaven. You would really wish this planet to be as good as it could be, so you'd leave it in a better state than it was when you were alive. So when I think about death, I just think about this idea about continuation of life now being a blessed state of reality that allows for karma to be worked out on this plane for everybody. And it gives me some solace that bad people don't really get away with it in the long run, to some extent. You all have to pay your dues, but I take solace in the complexity of reincarnation and the ideas behind it. So it makes me think about taking more responsibility in my actions today, and that is a big aspect of what Guruji teaches: is don't wait. You're going to have to face this. These decisions and these changes in your life at some point. So choose now. Choose this lifetime. Don't wait until you're near death, and don't wait until next life. Just choose now to take action. So those are literally my thoughts on death.
Nice thoughts.
Brian?
Yeah, I remember speaking about death and reincarnation with a Muslim friend in school once, and it stayed in my memory. And it went something like this. It was like, he said, I understand, reincarnation is obviously not part of the Islamic faith, but I understand how, the simplicity of it, or the the way logically it would make sense if you believe in the afterlife in any way. Logically, it makes the most sense out of everything. But out of all the different ways faiths look at death, but why, can you just tell me? He asked me, why would it be that God has made it that you can't remember your former life? And I really thought hard about that. And then I said, well, if I remembered my previous life, my natural inclination would be to just do what I was doing in my previous life and to carry on doing it the same way I was doing it. So where would the evolution be if I remembered? And he said, "Oh, that's a pretty good answer." But at the time, I didn't really think. This was when I was 18, and I'm 37 now. I didn't really think too much about it. It just logically it made sense. But as I've grown older, I've really thought about that in a lot of detail. For example, you have inclinations, and you have. So if you were to be reborn with memory, with you wouldn't know where you've gone wrong. You wouldn't know where you need to be for the next stage of your evolution. And obviously God does know, so he puts you in that place that's relevant for the next stage of your evolution. And I remember another talk from Convocation, and this was about from Sister Madhuri, I think, about prayer. And he was saying, there was one devotee that was around during Master's time, and he was a very, very lovely devotee, very very deep in the sadhana, deeply steeped in their meditation practices, etc. But they had a lot of struggle. So if it wasn't health, they'd always have a health issue. If it wasn't health, then it would be family. If it wasn't family, it would be some financial thing. So they had a lot of struggle, and they were very up to the point of death. But Sister Madhuri was saying, but she passed all through those phases with a lot of grace. But then after her passing, that person's passing, someone asked Guruji or Master, why did that person, she's such a good person and she was so elevated, why did she go through so much difficulty? And then he said, before she took this birth, she asked to resolve a lot of her karma. And that is the reason why in this life she bit off much more than she could chew. Most people could chew, but she actually chewed it, and that's that's one of our famous sayings, isn't it? Bite off more than you can chew, and then chew it.
Beautiful. Yeah. I like this thought a lot. Like I oftentimes thought, when you incarnate, just before it, there's like someone at like a till or a teller or something, and he asks you, so what do you want this time? You want to work? You have this big chunk of karma here. Do you want to work on that, or and there must be something like that going on. I don't like. There's also this idea that you're not the victim of your own karma, right? Especially once you start seeking God, then you are in charge. You have this much stuff ahead of you, and you have to grind through it. And whatever comes is meant to come, and you have to go through it. And the more we can show acceptance to it, the better. And death I feel like it's like a blissful, it's like a blissful reset button that we can press and forget some of the mistakes we made and some of the pain that we felt. And then next time we start over again, with less heaviness, I guess. So, and it wouldn't be much of a life if we would remember all our past incarnations from birth, right? Like, where would the growing up thing be? You know everything already, right? Like, what would a mother teach you if you could remember your thousands of incarnations before?
Yeah. Yeah. Was it Brother Anandamoy who he said that he after some time he picked up an ability to see into his past lives, and he started doing it, and obviously he was very much enjoying what he was discovering. And then Guruji found out what he was doing, and he said, no, you need to stop. That is not that's not the way. Basically, you're getting lost in that you need to. You're here. This is where you need to be, and this is where you need to focus. So leave that baggage.
That baggage.
I as part of the young adults group, we were doing readings, and at one time we were reading the Second Coming of Christ, and the subject was on death. And I remember being shocked by what I was reading there. And people who have read this maybe might be able to relate to this. But the title of this section in the book, I think it's early on in the book, was how Satan creates death, disease, and disturbance. And initially the intentions of God were to really live a perfect life and return back to God. But Satan really had different plans, let's say, and created the desires and so on that has led to the existence that we experience, and death is a part of that. And it really made me think, like, wow, if death is and reincarnation actually is a part of the cycle that Satan uses to ensure our let's say captivity on this physical plane without returning to God. I suppose in a way it really had a profound impact on how I viewed death. And whilst yes, it's a blessing in so many ways that you kind of get another go at life to correct your karma. You don't get sent to hell for eternity like you do in some teachings. This is something that is actually not intended, as Yogananda would say, by the Creator, by God. This the suffering that we have was not intended. So it really stirs something within me to say, take action. You gotta do this now. Don't just rely on this death cycle and rebirth cycle. But that aspect in the Second Coming of Christ really made me sit and meditate on that aspect of the teachings of Yogananda.
Beautiful. All right, I think this wraps up our minute 22. If anyone wants to still add something, otherwise,
I do want to add something.
Go for it.
I want to refer to another of our very famous films about dreams. And let us, you'll probably be able to guess, let us refer to Saint Morpheus, who says...
Oh, okay, in the Matrix. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
Morpheus says to Neo, "Have you ever had a dream, Neo, that you were so sure was real? What if you were unable to wake from that dream? How would you know the difference between the dream world and the real world?" Jai Guru, everyone.
Jai Guru.